Yeah, well, that's fair enough. I
So,
mean, is there a subject that you've explored that you found incredibly fascinating?
oh, recently, yeah, just right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yes, artificial intelligence, AI,
Oh, yeah,
uh,
absolutely.
machine learning,
Yeah.
and over my vacation, what I did is I spent taking a crash course from MIT on deep learning.
Okay.
So I got really into it and really into how, and because I'm going to write a book on AI for music.
Oh, really?
So
Yeah, yeah.
I
Oh, awesome.
better,
Cannot wait for that.
yeah, I thought I better really learn this stuff myself, but I found that I loved it as I got into it. It was
Yeah.
very cool.
I was going to say, do you
Kind of,
find AI to be something that people should actually take an interest in?
well, there's going to be no choice pretty
Yeah.
soon,
Yeah.
uh, because it's going to be everywhere in some form or another. But I look at it as like blockchain a few years ago.
Okay. Yeah.
Blockchain
Of
was
course.
the real hot word, and everybody was coming out with blockchain this and blockchain that. When the fact of the matter is, it was an underlying technology, and if people wouldn't have hyped it so much, we'd be using it a lot more today.
Yeah.
And I think AI is pretty much the same way. It's like it's getting way overhyped when it's just an underlying technology for other things to
Yeah.
happen. So
Absolutely.
that's what's going on. The one thing I did find out that was very interesting is I'm no longer afraid of AI. There's the
Okay.
whole doomsday scenario. It's going to
Yeah.
take over and it's going to, eliminate jobs and things like
Yeah.
that. Um, no, that's not the case.
Yeah.
It's not as smart as everybody thinks. There's lots of limitations, and it's only as good as its training, and the training is hard. That's
Absolutely. Yeah.
it's easy to build a neural network,
Yep.
really.
Yep.
And there are tools that anybody can build it, but to train it, that's the hard part.
Absolutely. Do you feel with Chat GPT 4? I know that they've recently just gone from open source to closed source. Do you feel like AI is something that everyone should be able to get their hands on and be able to create more from the source code, or do you think that it should be um, closed so that people can't use it for, I suppose, for bad things? I mean, it's such a difficult thing to decide, but I feel like, especially with ChatGPT, I mean, it can definitely be a foundation to create something uh, that may end the world or the internet. Complicated viruses and whatnot. I mean, all this stuff you can definitely use AI to create stuff like that. I mean, do you think that it should be open source or closed source, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's called filtering, and it's
Yeah.
how things are filtered, and that's built into the training essentially.
Okay.
Well, again, it's going to be one of those things that's just going to be there, and we're not going to think too much about it in a
Yeah.
few years. It's not
Yeah.
going to be that big a deal as it's going to be
Yeah.
this helper. Like whenever you're on a plugin or something and you don't
Yeah.
know how to do something, you go to help.
Yeah.
That's what it's going to be. It's just
Yeah.
going to be a variation of that,
Well,
a
it's going to
deeper
make it
version of
easier, I
of help.
suppose. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, what
That
about?
is the idea.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's just going to make everything easier to navigate and whatnot. What about creative on the creative side, like with all this AI art coming out? What are your views on that? Do you think it could be something that, I mean, humans would just be like, we're not interested because we know that it's not human. I mean, music has such a strong feeling element to it that, do you think people would take to AI music, or do you think it's just going to be brushed over?
Well, yes, for things like underscores for television programs where it's
Yeah.
just behind the picture and it's
Yeah.
just music. That might be a particular place for AI, but here's the way I learned it, and it makes a lot of sense. When we're learning to play guitar, for instance, you're a guitar player.
Yep.
What do? You copy other people. You copy Eric Clapton if you like him. You copy, your favorite
Absolutely.
artist
Yep.
and creators, and you get good from that, and it's constantly, and that's what we do in art. Even if you're a
Uh,
painter, you look at the greats and you learn from that.
Yep.
So there comes a point where maybe you become an expert in copying and an
Yep.
expert in doing something exactly like somebody else does.
Okay.
That doesn't necessarily make you an artist. What it makes you is a really good copyist, an expert
Well, yeah,
copyist.
yeah, that's true.
And there are many people that can't tell the difference between an artist who looks at this and will take it in a completely different direction.
Yep.
And you'll go, oh, yeah, okay, never thought of that. Or I like that. It's way different than someone who's just copying.
Yep.
So you can think of AI as this really good copyist
Yep.
and is just, and it's going to get better. You
Yep.
know, limitations now, but it's going to get better. And it's up to the user, you and I, to look at it, look what it gives us, and then take it to a new, clever, artistic level.
Yeah.
And that's the whole deal there. So, you know, for the most part, it gives you stuff back and it gives you a starting place.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But that's not good enough.
Well, that's fair enough. I mean, what about in the sense of, I mean, you said, lots of jobs and whatnot. What about AI getting to the point where it can mix a track and just clean it and it's done in 10 minutes? I mean, do you think that could be a problem, especially with, large record labels? It'll just be a huge cost, money saver. Do you think that that could affect the industry in a huge kind of way, or and what are your thoughts on that?
It could, but I remember Dave Pensato,
Yep.
the mixer, telling me that people hire me to take their hit from 1 million to 10 million. There's a creative aspect that will never capture. And I know myself with my students, for instance, I'll give them a song, some tracks, and I know how I mixed it, but I'll hear back from them. Oh, wow, how'd you think of that? So there is this creative aspect that goes into it that you
Yeah.
just can't beat.
Yeah,
You
that's
know
fair.
that the AI can't beat right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I suppose we've kind of already seen it with software like Lander, and automated
Yes.
mastering services. So yeah, I mean, it's an exciting thing when you think about it on one side. It'd be cool to kind of, um, especially for someone like me who produces my own songs and mixes and masters. It'd be useful for I suppose home studio producers, who don't, especially people in their 20s, who don't have the experience to, or the audio, the ear training. It could definitely yet again balance out the scope of what's accessible to people, and it's just going to level out the playing field again. Uh, with the introduction of laptops and, DAWs, especially going from analog to digital, the playing field has just leveled out, and so it's the music that has to speak, I suppose. And then, is the start of the song catchy? Does it get my attention in the first 5 seconds? I mean, we're living in a world where everything's so instantaneous now. Um, yeah, it's definitely an exciting prospect, or it's exciting to see where it can lead, for those, you know bedroom producers who really don't know how to mix, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, that's part of my business, helping those people.
yeah. Well, that's it. Yeah,
To be honest with you, but again, it's the thing. If it helps people get to a level where they go, "Well, this is really good. I want to get better. I have to learn a little more."
yeah,
That's why it doesn't bother me. It doesn't, I think anything that makes this process faster is good.
absolutely.
Because again, having OCD, the last thing I want to do is spend 10 hours on something.
Yeah,
Because, by
yeah,
hour
for
5, I'm
sure,
getting nervous already. It's like, oh, I want to do something else,
for sure.
you know?
For sure. I mean, the time saving that AI will present, will give us, it's going to be awesome. I reckon it's already. I utilize GPT-4 for almost everything. It's just great to uh, it's almost like a personal assistant. You know, you can just ask questions and give it ideas, and it'll say, yeah, this is an instant. You got instant answers. Um, but yeah, I think AI is definitely something to be excited for, in my opinion. And yeah, I can't wait to see where it goes. To be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's going a lot of places. You can be
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely. As someone who's spent so much time studying and analyzing the music industry, um, do you see any parallels with this AI or new technology with film, or any other creative industries that it could affect?
Okay, well, the first thing is you have to understand that the music industry has always been very proactive with new technology, and they go whenever there's a new technology, music is there.
Yeah,
Not because they think it's going to make music better, it's the industry thinks it's going to make more money. So
yeah,
that's but we see it every time there's a new technology, music industry is there. But right behind it is film. And I can walk, for instance, I'm a block away from Warner Brothers.
yeah,
I can walk to Disney. I can walk to Universal. I can walk to ABC, NBC. I'm in Burbank, so it's a company town,
yeah,
and I've been to all these studios and seen over the ages how my ages anyway, how quickly they accept new technology. And the reason why is it makes their job easier, faster, or better. So
absolutely.
they have no qualms about doing anything, that's technologically new. Neither does the music industry.
Well, that's
Now you can say that the music industry as a whole went kicking and streaming and screaming into the digital age because first they sued Napster and
yeah, yeah,
it did a lot of things wrong before finally Spotify straightened everything out and they decided they could make money off it. So that they drug their feet a little bit there. And we're
absolutely.
starting to see a little bit of that as well with AI in something just been last week where Universal Audio, and I think this is a good thing myself,
Yeah,
they went to Spotify and all the streaming services and said, we will not allow any music from our artists to be scraped as training material for a large language model. And this is where this is heading is if you want to use as training material, you have to pay us. And I think that's perfectly fair. But that will be the next realm of this where royalties will in. Now, if we look at this as a whole, we think, okay, they're already getting a lot of money from social networks that isn't necessarily translating down to the artist. So there's millions of dollars coming in,
yeah,
and it's very vague how it's being used and how it's transferring down. So I would be more inclined for us to pusher rather than a record label doing, but that's the next step that we'll see.
yeah. That's yeah. I mean, it sounds pretty exciting. Do you feel like there's any with the incorporation of AI? Do you think it opens the doors to, I suppose, I don't know, new genres? I mean, do you think that uh, we'll hear music or songs that I suppose are completely new to us? I mean, as you said before, as musicians, we're always copying. But do you think that AI would be able to, I don't know, I suppose, become intelligent enough to create something from nothing, I suppose, or come at it from a different perspective where it's able to fuse genres and it's just going to be something that's completely blow us away, I suppose?
Well, it's up to the prompt. If the
Yeah,
user is sufficiently clever
yeah,
to craft a prompt that will do that, then yes,
yeah,
I don't see any reason why it isn't. I mean, it happens anyway. Music industry in general from the beginning,
yeah,
its trends went every 7 to 11 years. Somewhere in that period, there'd be a new trend, and we haven't seen this in a while. But what we do see is new genres that pop up within that period. Now, they don't really capture, they haven't captured the general public for quite a while. The last you can say was uh, EDM, electronic music, that got big, and before that, it was rap and hip hop,
Yeah.
and those are the things. But there were long periods in between, longer than usual.
Yeah.
But there were small genres that would pop up
Yeah.
that weren't necessarily breaking out as super popular,
Yeah.
and that will continue to happen.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, do you think that as well on AI? Do you think that copyright might be an issue as well? I mean, I know that recently with the images with Dale, there was a lawsuit that was filed against, I believe it was National Geographic, with a monkey taking a photo of itself with someone's camera, and I think they ended up saying that because it wasn't taken by a human being, that it nobody owns it. I suppose. Do you think that that'll be the same with music, with AI music? I mean, will people who create the prompt, will they be able to hold that copyright? I mean, like it feel like it's going to be such a huge mess. I mean, does OpenAI own the copyright? Like, who owns the copyright there? What's the deal with that? What do you think?
Yeah, there you go, Simon. That's the rabbit hole that we go down that hasn't been determined yet. Now,
Yeah,
I'm talking about U.S. copyright law because I'm not aware of
Australia. Yeah,
elsewhere, but
yeah,
I
yeah,
do know what's happening here, and it's similar to everywhere else. The EU is a little ahead of everybody, but
yeah,
anyway, um, the big question is who owns the copyright? Is it the end user
yeah,
who crafted the prompt? Is it a is it the person that programmed the neural network?
yeah,
Is it the owner of the algorithm? Is it the training material? Who trained it?
yeah.
Is it where, it can go any number of ways. Now,
Absolutely.
the U.S. Copyright Office has already ruled. It's not a law, but this is the guidance that they put out. And they said that any AI art requires a human.
Yeah,
So there has to be some human intervention in all of this. Uh, and what that means is the big problem with uh, Dali and all of those is that many artists were just taking the output, the raw output,
yeah,
and then entering it in a contest,
yeah.
things like that. And and they'd win because it was really unusual and good, but they couldn't copyright it. They
Right.
tried, it couldn't. And the reason why is unless there's some human intervention, and it doesn't include the prompts so far, then it's not copyrightable.
Okay.
So we have to go down. This isn't a law, this is guidance.
Yep. Yep.
But what will happen is that there has to be a new set of laws for the digital age, and we're way behind on that already in the United States anyway.
Yep.
EU's a little ahead.
When it comes to, I mean, how do you police something like that if it was to become a law? I mean, how would you even police uh anything? What would be classed as human intervention? I mean, I could take a song, get AI to create the song, and then I could put it in my DAW and then export it. I mean, is that enough? Like how what yeah how do you feel like they're going to go about creating an actual law if they do, and how's it going to be policed? Like, how are they going to check, or I mean, do you think it could be something that could live on the blockchain? I don't know. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I can't tell you for sure how that would work, but
Yes,
I'm not an attorney. But
absolutely.
one of the things I do know is it might work one of two ways. Um, well, one way really. You can't police it so much, but you can determine how much human intervention is. And the way they generally do that in a copyright case
Yeah,
is they bring in musicologists. So in other words, if you were suing me for copyright infringement
Yeah.
and it went to trial, then we'd each bring in our musicologists and they would delve into it and they would figure out how everything would, happen. And this, is the way that gets determined a lot of times. Now, not always that way, but usually it's the musicologists that get called in
Yeah.
and they have ways of figuring this out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what they are, but I know they
Yeah. Yeah.
do.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's a definitely interesting topic to discuss. Uh, I feel like AI, from my perspective, is almost as big as what the internet was. I feel. I feel like it was so early in. I reckon in a year's time, it's going to be so different than what it is now.